do my little intro. Yeah, I did that. All right, so we'll get some people on. Like I said, they're just going to be jumping on in about 5 minutes or so.
Oh, no worries. I love the little dancing frog.
Oh, you gotta love the dance. I did that animation myself.
Really?
Yeah.
That's super cool. I don't know how to do any of that stuff, so that's awesome.
I got really sick over about 7 years ago. I started getting real sick, and my I can't just be at home do nothing. So I taught myself computer graphics and animation and stuff like that. I suffered a stroke and it was kind of a mess. So
Well, you seem like you're doing pretty good right now, so.
yeah, I'm doing okay.
Yeah.
But my brain is still broken, and it's my kayak's got outriggers on it, so it keeps me from falling out. So, and then I have oxygen that goes on the back of my seat to help me breathe because it's just my 50s suck.
Hey, keep hanging in there. It seems like you're making do and keeping a positive attitude. That's all you can do, man.
We'll give this another 2 minutes, and
hey, no worries.
I'm gonna. We're just going to, talk about how you started the business, your background, things like that.
Yeah.
And then I got samples here, of course, because I have. Just stretch it. You know what? I will tell you though. I will tell you that this, this little thing, at 1/80th of an ounce.
Yeah.
That thing is. I caught 65 fish a week ago. 65 in a day.
I love it.
And it's not heavy enough to drag my line down. So I'm like, on the ice, I'm doing this.
You gotta be.
I'm just feeding it down, and then on my fish finder, I see it, and then the fish see it, and they just jump on it, and then I pull them up, and then I'm doing this again.
The yellow perch.
Do it fast because this thing just sort of goes down like this.
Yeah, nice and slow. Hey, I think if it drives fish crazy, but were they yellow perch?
Yeah, yellow perch and trout.
Trout.
In fact, no, I even caught a kokanee on it. Salmon.
Oh, you got to take pictures of those fish. That's super cool.
I did. I posted them, and we caught the Monday we caught kokanee, German brown trout, and rainbow trout, and lots of perch.
That's awesome. Do you have like a Instagram?
I do have an Instagram, but my Facebook page.
Facebook page is where that's cool.
I do a lot on the photo. Whenever I put on Facebook, it automatically goes on my Instagram.
Okay.
Now,
yes.
I guess they married the two up. So
awesome. We'll have to look that up because that'd be cool. I'd like to see some of those fish for sure because
it's crazy.
It's like a kokanee. I mean, I don't get to fish like that. I get perch here but I don't we don't have very many trout in lakes unless I'm fishing like Lake Michigan, but I never fish Lake Michigan. So just not very common in my area. So I'm very jealous, quite honestly.
This is trout country. We get 10-pounders out of the lake in my backyard. I mean, they're so huge. Cool. I'll be in my kayak and they'll be just amassing underneath me. That's just awesome. 50 or 60 of them. I mean, these are huge.
You have really clear water too?
Not in that lake. Yeah. That's Klamath Lake.
They probably eat better if they're not in super clear water.
Yeah, that lake's one of the largest lakes in the western states. It's 25 miles long and 8 miles wide.
Wow.
With an average depth of 8 feet.
Huh.
So it's a sea
So it's basically just like a big flat.
It is just shallow.
Huh.
I've actually grounded my kayak in the middle of the lake. It's like, where did that come from?
That's wild. Looks like you got someone saying hello,
I got
Beverly.
Beverly. Hi, Beverly. All right. Let's see. It's 4:01. All right. So let's start. They can always rewind it.
That's right.
And I have all my mates in the UK. It's midnight there, so they're probably asleep. So they all said they're going to watch it tomorrow. They promised me. I just sent them a bunch of lures today. I started painting lures. I started painting lures.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, it just gives me something to do. There's my paint station back there.
Awesome. Yeah.
All right. So Ethan, Beverly, this is Ethan, and he owns and he founded Mule Fishing, which is one of my favorite companies. In fact, I actually put you on one of my shirts that I'm going to give away. Actually, I put my favorite companies on it. There's you and I think 3 other companies, and so I'm going to give those shirts away. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, we're going to get your brand out there. Of course, with Terrible at Fishing on it too. That probably isn't a pretty good, thing to do though, huh?
That's okay.
Terrible at Fishing and Mule Fishing. That probably doesn't
Well, hey, it'll help make you better at fishing.
Yeah, I'm terrible and I use mule. No, that's oh well. Yeah, it's all in fun. So tell me,
nobody knows what we're doing. Even the best fisherman doesn't know what they're doing.
So tell me, how did you start mule fishing?
Yeah, I mean, I'll try not to be super long-winded, but I've always kind of been entrepreneurial in spirit, and I mean, I have a full-time job and a family and everything, so it's like, I've only got so much free time. But a couple of years ago, I was getting really, really into ultralight fishing, and as a former hardcore bass fisherman, I was kind of looking for a higher quality, lighter jig because I'm a big finesse fisherman and definitely a Ned rig connoisseur. I even have a shirt, Ned rig for life,
Well, that explains your rigs.
Yeah. So I was just noticing the ultralight market really didn't have anything that I viewed as like a high quality do it all jig. And I wanted something really light, and I wanted something with a smaller, lighter wire hook. Because many of the jigs that were on the market were too big of a hook for a lot of the fish that I'm looking to catch, especially on light line. So my original idea was the 1/80th ounce, which is still available. It's really, really, really small. And I yeah.
There it is.
Yeah, this big.
It's so tiny.
Yeah. And that was really the concept. Was like I wanted something that was available and producing colors that like have been time tested and work hard for people.
Yep.
But in addition to that, I wanted a good keeper on it to where you're not ripping up plastics and losing plastics every few minutes, because what we know about smaller game fish is they tend to be pretty aggressive in nature, and they'll tear stuff up. So whether you're catching perch or bluegill or whatever, these fish are oftentimes going to tear stuff up. So having that keeper on it allows you to get a little more life out of your plastic and not have to be constantly messing with it. And then, like I said, I wanted a smaller hook because it really allows those fish to take it down better, and it works better with lighter line, and it gives the bait a lot more action too, because when you have a long shank hook, what that does is it actually makes your bait have less action. That shorter shank hook gives more free ranging motion in your plastic. And so that was something that was important to me. So anyways, long story short, I decided to go forward with the 1/80th, the 1/64th, and the 1/32nd. And those were the 3 original jigs. And I, started it with mule fishing, and I knew I had a longer term vision of launching more things in the future. And as I've been able to grow, I've been able to launch a couple new sizes of jigs a few years ago. And then we followed it up with the plastics, which are that high stretch material, which was another thing that I felt was a hole in the market, for panfish and for multi-species, is a high stretch, high durability plastic, but is designed really small to be mimicking smaller bait fish and everything. So anyways, I just rambled at you, but that's pretty much the concept.
No, and I will I'll tell Jack, hey, Jack and Beverly and everybody who watches it. I use your baits. I mean, I'm out of red. I think I got 2 more red horseflies left. That's about it. But
Well,
uh,
hopefully you're
time to
getting a lot of
reorder.
fish out of them.
Well, I've been getting. I mean, I was telling you before they jumped on the 1/80th of an ounce. So this is the 1/80th, and this is the 1/64th. Okay, those are the. They look the same size, but they're not. And I will use the 1/80th of an ounce. And what I'll do, what works really good too, is a Donkey Tail Junior on it. And this clear one is like, really good for me. And it'll just float down. I mean, I don't know how you cast it. I even asked you one time, how do you cast this? I don't know. But
Well, hey,
it does
I
drop
think
through
I'll
the
jump
ice.
in there. Mike, I'm going to jump in there because I get this question a lot, so I think it would be of value. So 1/80th, you're never going to cast super, super far, just to be
No.
clear. However, to increase distance, light line, line diameters is pretty much the biggest thing. And I find that 2-pound monofilament is incredible for winging out smaller baits. So the 1/80th and the 1/64th, I still get decent distance on, and I can catch a lot of fish in open water on
Really?
those. But it really requires an ultralight power rod and then light line. And I can tell you, if you do those things, one, it'll make the jig actually have more action, and you'll catch more fish. But two, you'll get a lot more casting distance.
I have two. I have an ultralight spinning rod and a BFS setup, and so I don't think my BFS can do the 1/80th.
Yeah, you got to have some serious skill there. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it can do that. It might be able to sling the 1/64th,
I've done
but
that.
it'd be close. But my spinning rod, my ultralight spinning rod, I throw some 2-pound line. I mean, you really need to go with really light line because that hole, you're not going to fit an 8-pound line through that hole.
Yeah, it's not meant for a 20-pound test. I can tell you
Yeah,
that.
no, they ain't gonna get it in there. So, but this was magic. I mean, this just I watched it because the water's crystal clear when it's frozen, and so I watched it go down there, and it disappears about 12 feet below me. But when I watched it, it just sort of swam down like this, and when the fish saw it, they could see it from about 5 or 6 feet off bottom. And when they saw it, my fish finder just saw the swarm of fish to just come up to it, and you just set the hook, bring it up, and then you're patient again by just sort of dropping it down again. Because it gets your line gets frozen, your guides get frozen, water droplets freeze on my line. It's cold out there.
Yeah. No, ice fishing is kind of a pain in the butt, but if you can deal with all that stuff and you can still present a bait like that, you're going to catch fish, and it's always a good time. Yeah, and that slow fall, that was kind of like the core of like the design is just really, a slow fall really is such a key to drawing bites across all species types, in my opinion. It's very natural, and a lot of
Yep.
times there's not a lot of baits out there that do it because so many people are so much more comfortable with like a 1/4 ounce this or
Yep.
an 1/8 ounce that. And not to say that those things are bad, because those can be very good too. But when everybody else is throwing that and the fish are so accustomed to it, and you throw something much lighter and natural, you're going to catch a lot of fish. And that was really the goal with it. And I'm really, really pleased with the results everybody's been having over the last few years, because I started Mule in November 2019, so it hasn't been around all that long. But I've pretty much shipped them everywhere in the States, and I can tell you, it's like I've seen a lot of cool fish catches from all sorts of catfish and drum and bass, and panfish obviously is a huge
Even
one. But the
salmon.
list goes on and on.
The ice here in Missouri is not thick enough to fish yet. I think where I live in Southern Oregon. My ice is 8 to 18 inches right now, but we've had warm weather, so there's a lot of stress fractures. There's some gaping rivers in the lake now, but I've been going out. I mean, let's see, I've been out 7 times in the last 2 weeks. ice fishing. So there's lots of ice fishing videos right now on, and you'll see me. And there's one where you'll see me pull up that kokanee. That was last Monday, a week ago yesterday. And when we pulled up a German brown rainbow trout, lots of perch. And then I had a family with me. They joined me because they were just so they were frustrated. So I invited them over. So come over here. I punched some holes Friday, and the two little kids caught perch and trout, in 30 minutes, and it was just exciting. But you make the donkey tail.
Mm-hmm.
So the donkey tail. So you make the donkey tail and the donkey tail junior. So this one right here is very finesse. But this one, what's so cool about that? I mean, this is regular bass size.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so this is what, 2.5 inches, something like that.
2.8.
2.8, so almost 3 inches. But what's so weird about it, besides it's stretchy, is you put a foot on it.
It's kind of yeah. I wanted something that had a lot more of a boot type shape that gave the whole bait kind of a swimming motion. And if you look at it underwater,
it looks great.
I think you'll see that it really does have a lot of shimmy to it. And it definitely looks goofy, and hence the name Donkey Tail. I mean, it was kind of meant to look a little goofy.
It's got a boot. It's got one leg.
It's a silly looking bait. It really is. But I'm so pleased with it.
No, it moves great. In fact, the Donkey Tail Juniors, when you put it on one of your small jigs, these things swim like it's a natural fish in there, and it's fantastic. What's weird is the horsefly. Now the horsefly, okay, this is the horsefly.
Mm-hmm.
So the horsefly, it's got doesn't have feet. It's got balls. It's well hung.
Yeah, you said it. Kind of almost looks like a little alien or something.
So what made you think of this one?
So, this one was actually, insect larva is a very, very prominent forage for pretty much all species of fish. I don't think a lot of people realize just how big insect larva is for many of our fish species. And many people, when they think insect larva or just insects in general, they think trout. Well, panfish are the same way. And they, for the most part, throughout the year, I would say a huge percentage of their forage that they consume is insect based. And so I definitely wanted, when I'm creating out this, what I'm kind of my goal with Mule is to create like an ultralight system for anglers. So that way they can have a simple amount of gear that will always catch some fish. And I already had the Donkey Tail Junior and the Donkey Tail, which kind of covers down on small minnow species and something that you can kind of cover water with because it has that boot tail and it can move water. Well, I wanted something more so insect focused, and you can fish it a little slower and you can drift it. You can fish it in trout streams. You can fish it around weed edges for numerous species. But as far as the actual design of it goes, a lot of it was influenced by like a mayfly larva. But I wanted something that also, you can actually trim this down a little bit if you want to make it a little smaller profile. So while you're out there ice fishing, Mike, you can actually just trim right behind the body and just have the lid portion as well as these two tails and put that on like a small tungsten ice jig too. And that is a great way of getting just a little bit smaller profile, but still mimicking an insect. And so a lot of thought went into that. So you can really mimic a lot of different insect profiles. And these things have caught in pretty much every type of trout and every type of panfish out there. And I'm sure the list will continue to grow.
Well, I live in trout country. I'm a bass fisherman in trout country. Now, mind you, last year was my best year fishing. I caught over 1,000 bass last year,
wow.
Let alone hundreds of trout and crappie and perch and whatever else I caught. But the trout here are huge. They're almost steelhead size in these lakes, and they go after things like this. The trout, it doesn't matter how big that trout is, they jump on this stuff. These things, the donkey tails, these things what the perch will do, they'll just start eating at the foot, and they'll eat their way up. I've actually landed perch unhooked. They just grab it, and
No way.
they just bit onto it, and I've actually landed them without a hook in them.
That is incredible, and I love that so much. I have not done that myself, but yeah, they are kind of notorious for grabbing at the tail of something and
They
just kind of
do.
sucking it down.
Yeah, and
But,
I've landed them that way. I mean, I kayak fish, so when I'm not
yeah,
ice fishing, and so my kayaks always, I mean, it's easy to just land them right onto my lap. They don't have to travel far. So now you have a sort of a philanthropic cause, the cleaning up our waterways. How does that work?
yeah. So when I was first kind of thinking through the company to start it, I knew that I wanted to do something, and I mean, I've always found that pretty much everywhere you go, no matter where you're fishing, there's unfortunately pretty much trash everywhere.
Yeah,
And I know that as anglers, unfortunately, there's a lot of times where anglers are actually partially to blame for some of this. And I don't really like that reputation. And I don't like the fact that that happens. Part of it's inevitable, right? I mean, sometimes it's not intentional littering, but it happens. And so I
yeah,
feel like we as anglers in general have a responsibility to help clean up with that, whether we're contributing to it or not. Um, and so with Mule, I was thinking, well, as I grow this, I would like to be able to scale something that helps give back to this cause. And at first, what I did was I literally was like giving my own time when the company was really small. I was going out there and I was cleaning up my local rivers and just filling trash bags. And as it's grown, and I've had quite honestly less time to be able to do that because I'm focused on growing the business, I've been able to start to implement new ways of doing it too. So I've worked with other people to go out and clean waterways, and I've basically um, I've been able to contribute financially to those causes. If you guys are familiar, and if you're not, make sure to go look it up. American Rivers Association. It's basically a nonprofit organization that is dedicated fully to providing cleaner waterways, and a huge part of that is trash cleanup. And so, definitely, highly encourage you to go check out AmericanRivers.org. I think it is. And that one, I'm proud to say that here recently I donated $1,000 to, and that's all because of the support that Mule has gotten. And my hope is that we can continue to scale that over time. And what's beautiful about when you start to implement models like this into your business model, the bigger your business gets, the bigger your impact gets. And that's something that I'm very much excited to continue building on as I grow this business a little bit, because I want to do some more creative things. If there's an angler out there that's watching this that wants to organize a waterway cleanup event in their area, I'd like to be able to sponsor something like that and send goodies to people that come and participate. Stuff like that is
yeah,
kind of where I want to go with this. And that just takes time. So, anyways.
yeah. Well, that's neat. I mean, I'm in my kayak, so my net probably gets a lot of trash too. Depending on the day, sometimes more trash because I'm just scooping it out of the lake
It's
or the
sad. Yeah.
river, and I'll
Yeah.
just throw it in my kayak. And when I land, I'll put it in the trash bins or whatever. But
Yeah. The river
it
systems are always terrible because as
yep,
soon as trash, once it's littered, it finds its way into a body of water, and then it just travels. So, yeah, it's disappointing, but all we can do is try, on our own to do something
yep,
and reverse the impact. But it's only going to get worse. So it's a matter of getting people to get out there and do something about it. So hopefully we don't get worse too fast.
yeah. I work part time during the regular season at the Lake of the Woods, which is probably the prettiest lake in the area here.
Hmm.
And Lake of the Woods is a spring-fed lake, and it's not a reservoir, so it's a natural lake, and so it's the only one with really any kind of water. Because here in the West Coast, we're suffering. We just have no water,
Sure.
and the lakes are just depleted right now. I mean, we started the winter really good, but then it stopped. I mean, we had a lot of snow. I had a few feet of snow in front of my house, and it was like I thought we were going to have a great winter, and then it just stopped. So it's very frustrating. These smaller lakes, they're just they well, people don't take care of them, and
Yeah.
so I go to them and I kayak and stuff, and I'm always picking up, and I have trash bags in my truck, so I just if there's no bin, we just put them in the trash bag,
Yeah.
and then this year or last year, I really made a really a big effort to to teach kids. I gave away a lot of lures out on the lakes. I mean, they needed to catch fish because they'd be out there fishing, they weren't catching anything, and you know I'll come back and I've already caught 50 or whatever, and so so I teach them how to catch fish. I give them lures and they catch them, and to me it's the best feeling in the world. It's like those two kids Friday. I mean, when I saw them catch a perch and a trout, it was like it made their parents, it gave them a memory.
Yeah.
And it's everything. I
Yeah.
mean, that's what I love doing that about fishing. It's
Yeah.
my favorite thing.
I love that too. And I mean, that's kind of like a big part of what I'm passionate about is just kind of helping people enjoy the outdoors more, whether it's fishing or just spending time in the outdoors in general, hiking, camping, it doesn't necessarily matter. But if you can get someone more interested in it
Yep.
and ensure that they had a good time out there, they're going to care about it more. And that's incredibly important to me because selfishly, I mean, I want to see us take care of our environment, take care of all these bodies of water. And if people care about them, they're going to.
Right. Well, outdoor sportsmen usually respect the environment more than
Oh yeah,
the recreational
conservationists. Yeah,
person. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
A true outdoorsman is going to be pretty much conservation first,
yep.
And then the sport of it second.
Yep. And the trick to getting a fish on kids' line is really just to go small.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty much live bait or you go
Yep.
small and
Or
you
just
target
go
it.
small. Yeah, it's these little guys right here. I'll stick them on a little jig for them, and they'll catch something.
Yep.
Because it's to get the bite on. I will start with something small. In fact, your 1/80th of an ounce. When I go ice fishing, I always start with this because it's going to get the bite on. And then once I get the fury going down there, I can switch to another pole and I can maybe hit something bigger.
Yeah.
But I mean, lately we've been pulling up trout off these little itty bitty jigs. And I knew you loved Neds because these are basically Neds.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. And that was what started. So it's funny. I'm like I said, I told you before we started this, I'm from Kansas originally. And way back when, before the Ned rig was commonly known as the Ned rig, it was always known as the Midwest finesse rig.
Really?
And it's kind of named the Ned rig because of a man named Ned Cady. And I actually had the pleasure of fishing with him, I don't know, about 10 years ago. And, at that point, there was a lot different gear. And I was able to actually fish with one of the finesse TRDs before it was ever launched. And so Ned rigs as a whole has been like a part of who I am as an angler and kind of like my upbringing into the sport. And it's always been something that's super productive for me for bass fishing. And there's actually some jig companies out there back in the day that made jigs that had a little bit smaller hook and a different style of a hook, and they went out of business. And so when it came to launching new sizes, I knew that I would have a little bit of a point of difference with my 1/16th and 3/32 versus a lot of the Ned jigs out there. They have very much larger hooks that are marketed primarily to bass fishermen that are using heavier equipment.
Right.
But for those of us that really like ultralight fishing or just finesse fishing in general, if you like using 6-pound test and a medium light rod, this is more of a jig suited for that equipment. Whereas if you want to use something with a heavier gauge hook and maybe like 20-pound braid to a 12-pound leader, there's plenty of options out there that other companies are offering. So that was something that was important to me because I'm a big believer in lighter the line, lighter the gear, you're increasing your odds at more fish.
And it's more fun.
I agree.
I mean, I fish when I started ultralight fishing. I mean, a 2-pound smallie, smallmouth bass. A 2-pound smallmouth bass is like a 3-to-1 fight ratio compared to other fish. I mean, it's a beast. It just likes to fight. And when you catch that on, if I catch that on my ultralight, which I've done, there's a video out there on my channel with me in the dark, because I was out there like at 5 a.m. I hook into a 3-pound smallie, and all you hear me is, in the dark, "You're so pretty, you're so pretty." But let me tell you, it was so much fun to pull in. And I finally got light on it. He's so, but
I bet that drag was screaming.
oh, it was so much fun. And you the nice thing about ultralight is not only that you catch more stuff, but everything feels big.
Yeah.
And I love that about it. I mean, I can catch a 1-pounder or even a half-pounder, and it still feels fun.
Yep.
And
that's definitely, it's made me more, like, I'm more passionate about panfish now than I ever would have expected. And that's just because I picked up ultralight gear and I started actually fishing for them. And I've realized that, if you actually cater to the size of that fish with your equipment, man,
right.
a bluegill can be just as exciting of a fish as a bass. And for whatever reason, a lot of people don't feel that way. And I think it's just because nobody's really been educated on that. And I think ultralight fishing is honestly going to continue to grow, and people are going to become more and more excited about it because people are starting to realize that, I think.
Hey, Val, I'll tell you, I've fallen in love with ultralight. So my most of my baits that I paint are less than a quarter ounce. Then this is 0.2 ounces. This little jerk bait, and Valerie, I just sent Valerie. Although I think the one I sent Valerie is I think it's a quarter ounce, but anything a quarter ounce or lighter is in that ultralight category.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I bass fish ultralight. I love catching a big bass on my ultralight and taking 15-20 minutes to wear it out and then bring it to my kayak. And it is the best feeling in the world. And I tell people, I mean, this is the best. And there's very little hard bait. And until I found you, there really was very little finesse soft baits out there. I mean,
yeah, especially the high durability stretching plastics are pretty hard to come by. I mean, obviously I'm biased and I own Mule and I could talk about it all day long, but the reality is, I mean, there are some other great baits out there too. And I've fished a lot of them and I still fish a lot of them. You've got stuff like Gulp and you've got Bobby Garland and you've got all these other companies. Kalen's makes some good stuff. Like, there's a lot of good stuff out there, but what I've found is, like I said, with these soft plastics on that ultralight gear, you're just going to rip them up all the time.
You do.
And that was so important to me that I changed that. And so, like I said, I still fish some other stuff too, and I love doing it. But I'm really, really proud of the fact that I can extend the life of a bait and allow someone to focus more on fishing throughout the day and less on rigging up.
Yeah, this is a bait. I won't say the company.
Oh, it's fine. Honestly, you definitely can.
Okay, this is from Charlie Brewers. Now, Charlie Brewers is a fantastic company. They make great baits. But
I admire them.
Yeah, I mean the guy is also a dark horse type company that just grew, and so I actually pulled the paddle tail off.
Yeah.
But these things. I mean, it breaks.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a good little 1-inch.
I do love that bait though.
Paddle tails.
It's a great bait.
It is a good bait. I catch stuff on it, but the thing is, it doesn't, it doesn't do this, and it doesn't last.
Yeah.
So this one, I can't tell you how many of these little paddle tails, which I love, get bit off by perch.
Yeah.
They just bite them off, and then I go through a lot of Charlie Brewer's baits. Where yours, I mean, I don't know when it was. I do have to get some more red ones, but because my trays, and that's another thing too. You put them in trays. This is really cool.
And that's important to keep the bait from being all bent, because they'll be that plastic type. If it wasn't in a tray, you might have some bent tails, and I want to make sure that it's right and it runs true every time. So
Right.
that's important. That keeps the bait in proper form.
And that's and you know, and I always keep them in these bait
Yeah.
trays. You know, I'll put them in I got a 3700 box here, and I'll just stick them in the big area. It fits, and they're just in little trays there. So I don't know if that's an accident or not, but the little
Only
trays
thing to look out for, and it's
work.
called out on the packages, just like any other baits that are this type of material. Just make sure not to put them with other soft plastics, like the different material soft plastics, like a traditional soft plastic, because they will, that would lead to some melting and whatnot, and that's just kind of a chemical reaction that they have. But
Well, I keep them in this.
yeah, if you do that, you should be fine.
Yeah, I mean, but your baits are in that big cavity on my 3700 box,
Love
and
it.
they're just in those trays, so they stay separate. So, no, we got Matt on. So, all right, we got a few. So, gosh, I think we answered everything.
Yeah. Oh, honestly, I do have to get running here soon, so I will give you
I said
whatever is
30
on the
minutes. So
whatever is left. Let's hit it. Is there any other questions or anything?
I think that's everything. Valerie, you got anything? Matt? Anybody? No. It takes a minute. There's a delay.
Mike, I appreciate you having me. Yeah, no, there's the YouTube live. It's always a good time, but you never really know when that comment might actually come. So we'll give them.
Yeah, there's like a 30-second delay, and I'm watching the YouTube here, and then we're like can have a conversation there. Yeah. So all right. So anyway, Ethan, thank you. You're my first interview on my my channel, by the way.
Well, hey, I would encourage you to do more. You're really good at it, and I had a lot of fun today. So keep on doing what you're doing. It's really cool to see, and then hopefully you can do some more of this stuff. And if you ever want to have me back and do it again, maybe a few months down the road or a year down the road, maybe we can do that. Check back in. We got some cool stuff coming. I will say, Mike,
you got new stuff?
Not anything that I can share at this point, but there will be a few new things launching this year. So you stay tuned. I can't share it yet. It's too early.
Really, I got the horsefly and the donkey tail and donkey tail juniors, but you hinted just a little bit that the 1/80th might go away.
Oh no!
Is that what did I hear a hint?
No, it ain't going away.
Okay, good, because it sounded like you were going to make this go. And this is really, my first order, I didn't order these, and then
that ain't going anywhere. I like that bait. Even if no one ordered it, I'd keep it just because I like fishing it.
Well, that's what it was. I think I commented on one of your videos about this thing, and he says you told me you got to try it, Mike, and I said all right. So on my next order, I ordered some 1/80ths. Yeah, and I think that's my last. Well, actually, my last one in that package.
Yeah,
I got some.
Well, the five jig sizes they all have a different use case, and I can tell you all 5 of those are going to stay. And here this year, I do this as a side job. I've got a full-time job. I've got a 5-month-old baby and a wife, and life is pretty busy. But when I do have time to focus on this, and I'm trying to focus on as much as I can, I can tell you I'm working my tail off, and I've got a few things that I think are really going to help some folks this year. And so, Mike, just make sure to stay in touch with me.
I will.
As some of that stuff launches, I'll make sure I get you set up with some of that so you can go try it out for yourself and let me know how you do.
Okay, that'll be fun. Thanks, Ethan. And thanks everybody. And we'll see you till you guys can all find me on the water. Take care, Ethan.
Yeah.